What's going on? Welcome to the 2021 edition of the Off the Schneid preview series, where I'll be going over all 32 NFL teams, breaking down their roster, schedule, giving you a record prediction, as well as helping out with some betting tips. If this is your first time on the channel, hit that subscribe button, and if you like what you hear, go ahead and smash that like button as well. Don't forget to check the description for links for the Off the Schneid social media and interact with me directly. I want to give a massive shout out to OurLads Scouting Services and OurLads.com, as all roster and depth chart graphics are straight off their site. If you've never been, go check them out immediately. I use their site for all NFL, fantasy, and betting purposes, and there's a link in the description for their site. Again, do me a huge favor and hit that like and subscribe button, but enough of that, let's get to your favorite NFL football preview. We're taking a look at the San Francisco 49ers, and we'll start at quarterback like we always do. Interesting position for the Niners. Obviously, they just drafted Trey Lance, 3rd overall, which is huge as far as draft capital is concerned. Obviously, it's the 3rd overall pick out of 207 rounds, 257, I think, this year. Anyways, so yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, is going to be the guy to start the season. I really, really do. I think he gives them the best opportunity to win football games right out of the gate, type of a thing. I think you absolutely get Trey Lance's reps in preseason. Absolutely. See what you have. I think, he hasn't played a ton of snaps in college, and he hasn't played football in, basically a year plus. Almost 2 seasons basically. So I think that you gotta give the ball to Jimmy Garoppolo to start the year. I think, and we'll get there to the schedule and record prediction in a minute. But I think that's going to allow Jimmy Garoppolo to continue playing as long as he's healthy. So we'll see what happens with his health, and we'll take it from there, type of a thing. 28 touchdowns, total touchdowns, 4,000 yards basically in his only year. That's the other thing. He only started for this team for 1 full season, which people might not think. He's actually only been a starter in the NFL for 1 full season, which is kind of crazy. He's still only 29 years old. And like I said, I think he gives this team the best opportunity to win games right now, right out of the gate. Trey Lance will absolutely take over. It's just a matter of when. Is it at the end of this season? Week 7, like a lot of people are projecting right after their bye. Week 14. Is there an injury? Lots of question marks. But if everything remains the same, I think Jimmy Garoppolo gives his team the best opportunity to win football games and get back to the playoffs immediately. That's where I'm at. At the very, very least, Trey Lance takes over full-time next year, 100%. So we'll leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments. We'll move to running back. And actually, we'll just start with that narrative. Obviously, last year, they were bit by the injury bug pretty severely. And already that's kind of trickled into this season so far. Jeffrey Wilson and School, I can't remember where he's at here. School, they both, Justin School, they both are out. He's not even on here anymore, which is interesting. Still with the team though, obviously, but Jeffrey Wilson and Justin School both will miss this entire season, which is going to hurt this team, but not a ton realistically, thanks to their draft. I did give them a bit of a rough grade for their draft, but I obviously wasn't projecting those 2 guys to miss the whole season. So there you go. They still have Raheem Mostert there, who has had injury struggles, but he is still there and he'll get his touches when he is healthy and playing. Trey Sermon, third round pick, great pick. I think he's going to be the Jeffrey Wilson, the number 2, Jerick McKinnon, maybe an amalgamation of the 2 guys, but I think he's going to be the number 2 running back on this team. 1A, 1B actually, but with Mostert type of a thing. Wayne Gallman comes over from the Giants. Elijah Mitchell was a 6th round pick as well. Jermichael Hasty is still there, former undrafted free agent. And then we'll see what happens with Jeffrey Wilson, but he's probably, most likely going to be done with this team. We'll see. We'll see how that shakes out, but I'm not concerned with it right now. Kyle Juszczyk comes back, the most dangerous fullback in the NFL, in my opinion. Bit of a Swiss Army knife type of a guy, can do a lot of different things for this team. George Kittle, for me, and I might catch heat for this from people, but for me, George Kittle's the number 1 tight end in the league. Why? Because Travis Kelce has the luxury of the best quarterback in the league throwing him the ball. George Kittle does not. So, if you supplant Kelsey and throw George Kittle on the Chiefs, I think that, you know, he at the very, very least produces the exact same as Travis Kelsey, maybe a touch higher. That's kind of where I'm at with it. So I have George Kittle as my number one tight end in the league, followed very closely by Kelsey, regardless of quarterback play and team and offensive scheme and everything like that. But that's just where I'm at with it. And then Charlie Warner, this is his second year, former 6th-round pick. Ross Dwelly's still there as well. I think they're just fine at the tight end position. Realistically, they're fine everywhere on this team for the most part, as long as they stay healthy. We'll move over to wide receivers. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, both very, very dangerous, especially with the ball in their hands. So that's kind of all you want to do if you're Jimmy Garoppolo. Get the ball out of his hands and into the playmakers. You know what I mean? That's what Kyle Shanahan likes to do. You know, that's how he runs his offense. You know, Jimmy Garoppolo is not the best athlete on this team. Not even close. Trey Lance might be, but either way, we'll get that, you know, we'll see when that happens, when we get there, type of a thing. So those two guys are fantastic. Richie James is, you know, a little bit of lightning in a bottle type of guy. I do like Richie James quite a bit. And a solid depth guy. They brought in Mohamed Sanu, solid veteran, nothing wrong with that. They're just really hoping and praying that Jalen Hurd can finally play for this team. Former running back in college, which is crazy because he's 6'5", 220, 230 roughly. Yeah, that's crazy that he played running back. Former 3rd-round pick, has missed his rookie season and his second season. Back injury in his rookie season, ACL in his second. You know, it'd be great to see him play and see what you have with the guy. Hopefully this is the year. Hopefully this is the year we get to see him. So we'll see how that goes. Offensive line took a bit of a hit with Justin School, but I think 2nd-round pick Aaron Banks steps in, plays that other guard spot. You do still have Daniel Brunskill there as well. Tom Compton could fill in. Even if you really want, Colton McKevitz could slide in there. I think they have some depth, and then Jalen Moore is still there as the backup kind of swing tackle that Colton McKevitz is. So there's options. There's definitely options. Trent Williams is signed and there to stay, and Mike McGlinchey, that might be one of the best tackle tandems in the league, in my opinion. I think that's very, very, very stout, and makes their line very good. Just having those two bookends type of thing. But I mean, their guards are not in a bad spot either. So there you go. They have a very good offensive line is kind of what I'm getting at. And then we'll move over to the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, DeMeco Ryans, former linebacker for the Eagles and maybe some other teams, but he's known for the Eagles, takes over as the defensive coordinator. Mike McDaniel takes over as the offensive coordinator, but he was there already as the run game coordinator. So nothing changes. Realistically, for me, nothing changes on defense, and certainly, obviously, not on offense. Nothing changes. So I think you can just look at this team the same way you would have last year. There's not going to be any wholesale changes. Nothing crazy is going to change at all for this team. So let's look at the defense. They're obviously very, very, very much hoping that Nick Bosa can come back at full strength. Missed, I think he played 2 games last year, something like that. He has to come back in order for this team to succeed, in all honesty. Even if nothing happens on the offensive side of the ball, I think Nick Bosa is that important to this defense that he has to come back for this team to succeed. I really do believe that. Beyond that, they definitely do have some solid guys and depth guys, that sort of a thing. Eric Armstead comes back. D Ford is still very good and still there. Contavious Street needs to take a bit of a step forward, but I think he's a good depth guy. Arden Key, Jordan Willis are there as well. They brought in Maurice Hurst. DJ Jones is there. Javon Kinlaw in his second season should be improved. The sack leader for this team last year, Kerry Hyder, is now gone. And, realistically, that's fine as long as Nick Bosa is back, because the next guy last year was Eric Armstead with only 3.5. So obviously that tells you a lot. And I mean, it's just, it's obvious, Nick Bosa commands a lot of double teams, that sort of a thing. He just makes this or any defense that much more dangerous, and you got to account for him as an offensive line against this team. So I think they're okay as long as Nick Bosa comes back in full health. Then they're absolutely fine. Linebackers, D'Amico Ryans has been working with the linebackers. That's what he was doing before becoming the defensive coordinator. I think that they continue to succeed and continue to play well and do well. They did bring in Samson Ebukam, who I'm not exactly sure how he's going to fit into this defense. Is he going to be, an edge rusher? He probably will at times. I think it's a great pickup because he brings versatility to this defense, and you got to account for a guy that you might not think you have to, sort of a thing, in the blitz game, rushing the quarterback type of thing. So that's a very interesting kind of development for this defense. I thought it was a great pickup. Comes from the Rams, to a division foe. Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner are very, very good linebackers, I think, and they're very young. I think they're both 24 years old, and considering the experience, especially for Fred Warner, I think that's fantastic right there. So this defense should improve, in my opinion. Sack numbers were up. Both on the offensive side and defensive side of the ball for this team. But realistically, on the offensive side, you could attribute that to quarterback play at least a little bit. And then on the defensive side of the ball, obviously they lost Nick Bosa. So I'm not really looking at those numbers and reading too much into them, to be honest. So I'm just, again, calling it a wash. And I'm thinking back towards 2 years ago where they were then. Obviously, DeForest Buckner was there, so that's different. But you get what I'm getting at here. Jason Verrett is still there, came from the Chargers. Very good corner, I think. I think he'll be good for this team. Emmanuel Mosley they brought back, which was a fantastic signing. You got to bring a guy like that back, especially when you lose Akilo Weatherspoon. And it doesn't look like Sherman will be back with this team. We'll see, but it doesn't look like he'll be back. So you got to bring back Emmanuel Mosley, in my opinion. Dante Johnson, very good. Juan Williams, very good. My only thing is, and they did address it in the draft with 2 corners, is they're getting a little older. They're getting a little older, which, potentially brings on, injury concern and that sort of a thing. But nothing to be concerned about just yet. I'm not, it's not time to hit the panic button at all, but it's definitely something that they need to continue to address in upcoming drafts type of a thing, or in free agency if they can. Ambry Thomas I really liked as their 3rd round pick. Hafanga 5th round pick I do like as well. Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tart are back as starting safeties for this team. So I think there's a lot to like with this team overall, offensively and defensively. I think it's very, very possible that they get back to the playoffs, and very possible that they win the division. Little segue there. Let's kick it to the record prediction and walk through for the schedule for the San Francisco 49ers. All right, there you go. There you see it, the low, high, my. I do think that there's more potential for this team to fluctuate. Hence why I have, the low, high, my there. Like, if you look at who I have, kind of projected to win this division, it's the 49ers. But I also see them potentially finishing the lowest in this division. I just think that they have the most potential to fluctuate with, injury, or, if they do have to rely on Trey Lance, I'm not sure that that's going to get them to the division win here. It doesn't mean they can't make the playoffs. 17 games this year, so I got them winning 10, going 10-7 type of thing, which, if you watch all these NFC West projections, that wins them this division. I think it's completely up in the air. I really, really think that it's borderline a 4-headed die, roll type of thing. So yeah, again, looking at this, they could finish first or last type of thing. We'll see. I think it's very, very interesting that the odds makers have them as the betting favorite to win this division, seeing as they finished last in the division last year. I think that's a bit, excessive. I mean, it's a great job by the odds makers, to be honest, because I project them to win this division. And, so I'm just a little upset that they also do, and I'm not able to, outsmart them type of a thing. I picked them to win the division 2 years ago when they were 6.5, like the Cardinals are. I picked them and bet that, which was fantastic. It really led to making some money. So I was kind of hoping for something like that to occur this year as well. But here we are. The odds makers are projecting them to go worst to first type of thing, which, happens almost every year. So we'll see. Now, why am I projecting them to win this division? The biggest reason is schedule. That's the biggest reason. I think that their first 4 games are all very winnable, and potentially even their first 5 games, and then they go into their bye 5-0, leading the division. It's going to be tough to come back in this division, I think. Especially if they get 2 division wins right before their bye type of thing. I think they go on the road and beat Detroit, even though I think, home games, especially in week 1, are going to be tough for the road team to win, obviously, because fans in the stands, every single team except for the Colts so far, I think the Colts will open it up, but every single team has said that the stadiums are going to be full, and those fans are going to be rabid, man. I guarantee it. And they're on the road for their first 2 games, but luckily for the Niners, they're playing subpar, in my opinion, bad teams that they absolutely should and will beat. So there you go. You start 2-0 on the road. That's a very good way to start your season. Then you come home and play the Green Bay Packers. If for some reason, I don't think it'll happen, but if for some reason Aaron Rodgers is not on that team, they absolutely win that game. Even with Aaron Rodgers, I think that they have a very, very good chance to win that game. It's their home opener. Like, what did I just say? And then, at home against Seattle. So I think that there's a very good potential. And if you're starting the season 4-0, there's, not only are you definitely thinking you're going to make the playoffs, but you're absolutely looking at this division like you're going to crush it type of thing. So once that mentality starts to creep into guys' heads, I think that's a good thing. I don't think that that's a bad thing to start looking ahead when you're sitting there 4-0 and you're looking good and you're rolling, right? And that's also why I think that Jimmy Garoppolo continues to play and continues to start for this team. You're not going to sit a guy when you're 4-0, 5-0 after your bye. Let's say they're even 4-1 at their bye. Are you really going to just turn the ball over to Trey Lance? I don't think so. That just doesn't make sense, So that's why I think Jimmy Garoppolo plays a fair bit as long as he's healthy. Coming out of the bye, you got Indianapolis, obviously, at home. That's definitely a winnable game. Like I said, at home, that's absolutely a winnable game. On the road against Chicago, I like them to win that game. So you see the wins stacking up. They're stacking up here. I think the only reason I went on the high side 12-5 is because it does get a little difficult towards the end of the season, which we'll get to. So I think they can go into Chicago and get that win. At home against Arizona, let's call it a home and home split. But if they do get that win, on the road, that's going to be tough for Arizona to come back from. Let's call it a home and home split. They're 4-1 into their bye. They get the win later on. At home against the Rams, I think that they can split that as well. Let's call it home and home splits with the Rams, Cards, and Seahawks. So there you go. On the road against Jacksonville, they're going to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars most likely. At home against Minnesota Vikings, that's a tough game in my opinion. Very winnable, obviously, considering it's a home game, but that's a tough game. I like the Vikings to rebound quite a bit this year. If you watch this channel a lot, I was down on the Vikings last year, back up this year. Here I am, back up on the Vikings this year. On the road against Seattle, call it the home and home split, so they take the loss there. On the road against my Cincinnati Bengals, they probably beat my Bengals, but obviously I'm a little biased, but I do have them beating my Bengals, but it's going to be a tough game, actually. To be honest, it's going to be a tough game. The Bengals are nothing to, stick your nose up at. They got a good squad. So, but I do see the Niners winning. At home against the Falcons, I absolutely think they crush the Falcons. The Falcons are going to have a tough year this year, I believe. But we'll see. On the road against the Titans, I think the Titans can definitely get that win. Very, very good team. I think they're better than people are giving them credit for, even though there's a lot of people that think they're pretty top tier. I think that they're a top tier team, and go watch their video if you want to see my opinion there. At home against the Texans, they absolutely beat up on the Texans. Everybody's going to beat the Texans this year. And then on the road against the Rams, that could be, I'm going to say this for every NFC West team that has an NFC division rival game on week 18, that could decide this division. Absolutely, that could decide this division. And, it's in LA. That's going to be a tough game. So we'll see. But you can kind of see where I'm at on the low, high, my, and realistically, the low, I'm only giving them that kind of low of a low because, you know, injuries are stacking up. They were last year. They already have started this year. And that there is something to be said about that a little bit. You know, the Chargers had a run there and they still kind of are in it, where they just lose a guy, at least one difference maker guy every single year, you know. And if that's, you know, starts to creep in with the Niners a little bit, or if they lose Jimmy Garoppolo, you know, that sort of a thing, or, you know, their wide receivers, you know, offensive line, maybe Nick Bosa. There's a lot of question marks. So that's why I had that fluctuation there. But I do project the Niners to win this division. Will I be betting on them? I'm not sure yet. We will see. To be honest with you, I'm leaning the Rams right now. But I haven't made my bet yet, and we'll see. But there you go. There's your breakdown for the 49ers. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you on the next video.